Just how are the Minnesota Lynx doing it, and what does it all mean? That's what we'll look at, and we'll hear from Cheryl Reeve about it today on Locked On Women's Basketball, which starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi there, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. You guys keep on breaking records. I think we're going to do it again in August. Over 100,000 listeners every single month, all season long. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, it's not just me. It's the entire group over at thenexthoops.com. The Next, where we cover women's basketball 24/7, 365, over 100 reported pieces every month. Every dollar of your subscription money matters for editors, for writers, for photographers doing this work. So go to thenexthoops.com, $9 a month, $72 a year. Subscribe, support the work that we are doing. And we have a story up over at the Next, the great Terry Horstman, our Minnesota Lynx beat reporter, talking about the Minnesota Lynx and how they have come together. And it's worth noting, the Minnesota Lynx, a team that plenty of people had written off before the season started, are sitting in the sixth spot in the WNBA standings conference-wise. They'd be in the playoffs today. They are 13-13. They have won 3 straight, and the last 2 over the New York Liberty at New York and the Connecticut Sun at Connecticut. 2 teams ahead of them in the standings. So we'll get into it. I want to hear what Cheryl Reeve had to say. Got a chance to catch up with her a little bit after Friday night's game. But here in segment 1, we're just going to talk about a little bit more exactly how they've done it. And the idea behind this is, smoke and mirrors is the wrong phrase to use, right? But there's no clear indicator how they got to 13-13 if you go based on just about any metric you can come up with, right? You go by true shooting percentage, they're 7th in the league. You go by turnover percentage, they're 6th in the league. So right about that midpoint, okay, this is a Cheryl Reeve team that is 7th in the league in rebounding. Those great teams from 2011 right through 2017, without fail, top of the league when it came to that. Offensive rating, they're 7th. Defensive rating, they're 10th. Cheryl even joked about it on Friday night. Now, this is not where they need to be. Defensive rating is something she takes very seriously. So, how are they doing it? There's 2 parts to this, right? One is they've done it the last 2 games without Napheesa Collier, which suggests, Cheryl made a joke, you'll hear it, but suggests that they are even better than this when Napheesa Collier, a top 10 WNBA player, comes back. That's how I see it anyway. And the other is you can kind of throw the season stats out the window. They got to 13-13. And you say, all right, well, their Pythagorean win-loss record, thank you, basketball reference as always, is 9-17. Oh, well, they must not be as good as their record. They'll fade down the stretch. I look at it a little bit differently. This is a team that managed to scratch and claw its way, forgive the Lynx pun, to 13-13. But now they're doing things they weren't doing early in the season. Terry Horstman talked about this over at the Next. Really perceptive way of looking at it. They weren't beating teams ahead of them in the standings. Now they are. They are in good position. No one can take away the 13 wins they've got. So what now? Are they going to be this much better? You bring Fee back from an ankle sprain, and suddenly this is a dangerous team come playoff time. That's certainly the way I see it. So let's see what Cheryl has to say. We're going to talk tomorrow about an X factor on the show, and that's Taylor McBride, who needs more attention. So I'm going to give her her own show. But without further ado, I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. Why don't you take your first swing at betting on Major League Baseball over on FanDuel? You can get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets. That's up to $200. So you bet $20, you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. There'll be some players on some new teams, some good opportunities to do that thanks to the MLB trade deadline. All that on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON to get up to $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
I guess thoughts of her at training camp, and I just shared this with another young player. So much of being successful in the league is believing that you belong. And Dorka believed from the very first day in camp. Whether she really believed on the inside, I don't know, but she exuded this confidence in herself. She had an emotional maturity I thought was off the charts. And it was through injury that Dorka got huge opportunity. And I think she just, grew in her confidence. And, it's hard, I think, sometimes offensively when you're trying to figure out what your place is. And she's, we're learning more and more about her. I think she's very good off the bounce. Highlight of the game was her, what we call her 51 action, where she went off the dribble and she went to go DHO with a wing and faked it and went to the basket. That just, I think to me, like that moment was the epitome of her confidence. To do that, to kind of call her own number when we had just started, running the play. And so there was just sometimes there's a courage to these rookies that you kind of goes a fine line sometimes on that courage and what I would call, maybe they should think twice about, but they don't cross the line. They don't cross the line. And Dorka's improvement and just belief in herself. Rebounding the ball. I think she's got her 100th defensive rebound in her young career. But she was big for us tonight. I think she had a lot of fun.
And just in terms of Kayla, I remember when she signed for, she talked about she's here to win as opposed to here to score everyone, which is what she's been throughout. But obviously knowing you can get that from afar. She is capable of a night like this. I know we talked pre-game, you spread it out, you're trying to find, Fee does a lot of different things. But obviously, that's a big part of it, knowing you can lean on her. Is that a conversation you had beforehand, or is that something where you just know she's going to take that step for you?
Well, I mean, K-Mac's a big part of us, game plan every night in terms of offense and how you can utilize her to create things for other people, get shots for herself. There were some favorable matchups. She saw some shots go in early. The late shot clock one, that was heavily contested and goes in. That's it's your night. And obviously they had a player that did similar things on their side. So from a fan's perspective, that had to be fun, watching, the success of those two players. But K-Mac is, she'll repeatedly, she'll talk about, she wants to win. I mean, to help to this extent and to lead when that's that tough stretch, when they were, sort of making their way back into the game, it's K-Mac that's steadying us and directing multiple players. So I appreciate what she's given us.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. Jess Shepard was a plus 26 tonight.
Yep.
Obviously she's still working her way back. I assume the minutes restriction was what, like 20?
Yep. We got right up against it. Yeah.
So just take me through what you see of what she's doing, what she still needs to be doing, and how she could be so impactful so soon.
Well, Jess was a huge part of, we went down early in the game and then we made some shots and kind of got back in it. I thought Jess was in there with a group, her and Angsler, when they were together, that were absolutely battling for rebounds. And that's what Jess does. Jess is, every time she's going to play the game, she's going to stand out in that regard. And she had 4 assists, that I think the rest of the stuff, I mean, it's not an easy game to go against, JJ and Stewie in terms of length, and even Sabali with her size. So that part of her game will come. But Jess is, I mean, she just plays with confidence, and she knows what her role is, what her job is, and the rebounding is incredibly valuable.
It seemed like early on there were, you guys obviously had a very successful first quarter, but it seemed like early on Liberty was getting some looks that they weren't able to close. What was the adjustment in terms of pushing them farther away from the rim as the game went on?
Yeah, I thought we just probably didn't necessarily coach them up well enough early. We didn't want to put ourselves in a situation where we were just switching with Stewie or with JJ. That's just not great for any team. And so, we didn't talk a lot about, we certainly knew that, you take 1-2 steps and Sabrina's going to pitch it out to Stewie to 3. And the pace that they were doing that with, we just weren't in the play enough. And then we just kind of, we adjusted a little bit just to make sure that we didn't care who was guarding Stewie as long as someone was guarding her. And so we kind of veered off at times. If we went over a ball screen and we ended up having to go take Stewie with LA or somebody, we just said, go. And so we were able to get that done and eliminate some of the threes. And honestly, I think putting the ball in the hole helped our defense, right? That was a big part because they were playing off of that in transition. So once we scored a bit, a couple back-to-back, and next thing you know, it's a game where we were getting a little more set, a little more disciplined in what we were doing. Our bigs, I didn't think did a good job early of containing when the guard took off, when Stewie's setting it. When you have players like that, Dorka wants to stay home on Stewie, and here goes, a guard to the basket. So we just cleaned all that up. And I thought we were pretty hard to play against. Maybe Sabrina didn't feel so, but we tried.
I know Diamond obviously got hurt, looked like ankle, came back in. What's the situation with them?
Yeah, my understanding it's a shoulder injury. As you can imagine, we weren't necessarily talking about that in the locker room. We were. I thought her minutes were really good. I felt really bad for her. She was helpful to us, and like I said, in that stretch, her and Jess. Just disappointed for her that she had to experience that, and especially family here and in New York. But I'm proud of her, and hopefully she'll be okay.
And then just last one, you talked about Diamond before, obviously in terms of just the attitude. And the force getting off the court from the breeze.
Yeah.
But from the field, not her best night shooting, but
Sure.
Just for the amount of games she's played in the league, how advanced is it for her aggression, her sort of motor, to be able to get to the line stop really efficient scoring offense?
Yeah, I mean, she's learned a lot. She did force it a fair amount. Was taking some harder shots, and she learns very, very quickly. There's been games earlier in the year where you force it and the veterans kind of go, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. We're going to wait here for you and block your shot. They were digging down on her a little bit, kind of getting their hand on the ball. But Diamond right now is playing with a good balance of perimeter shots and driving. She's learning. When she gets herself in trouble, she's doing more surveying first and then trying to attack. And everybody in the building knows what she's doing. And so learning a little bit more of a ball movement of just grabbing and going and not surveying gives her a lead, playing from ahead on her defender, and playing in transition and just, Diamond's will. It's fun to be around her will to win. I mean, the joy that she plays with is something that's really contagious, and she's a tremendous teammate. We talked about this. She listens, and she was huge for us today.
In terms of what you're saying about the surveying and then attacking, is that just something that comes with game experience, or have you drilled that many?
Yeah, we drill as much as we can. I mean, at this point in the season, we just had a couple practices, and Brunson works with her quite a bit, and so they watch a ton of film. And then anytime you get a chance, she'll stay after and practices, stay after and shoot around, and they'll work on some things. I think there's nothing like doing it in the game, and she has done it, and I think the Washington game, she was, really, really persistent of just grabbing and going. And sometimes she'll come over and I'll say, Diamond, she'll say, I know, just go. So she knows. It's just a matter of kind of feeling it in the moments in the game. So she's doing it, and we're still trying to find ways to generate offense for her that isn't difficult and so creative. But that's a player that was really helpful to us to win this game without fee. You're welcome.
Pivoting to the Zoom, start with Jack, and then Frank, you can follow.
Hey Cheryl, congrats on the
Hi,
win.
Jack.
Just for you guys to hold.
I think you're muted. Are you muted, or we have to?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Congrats on the win. For you to hold a front court that has, Stewie and JJ to their lowest points in the paint total this season, and perform as well as you did on the offensive glass, just how encouraging is that for you with the front court you had tonight?
Given their ability to shoot the three, the paint wasn't something we necessarily talked a lot about. But this is a team that, as we watched, the video that Katie prepared for us, that, a lot of the teams, they just get so consumed with their player because everyone you're going against is a really good player. And so you kind of do the my man defense. And we just were really committed to trying to stay 5-on-5, try to guard your player 1-on-1, intelligent help. And I just thought that, if you kind of go back and watch, I thought our early help when we had to end up switching and they tried to roll us down and Dorka would come over and kick out a player, we just were really assertive in what we were doing. Their pick and roll defense, I thought that's the key with these guys. And Sabrina is so good. Those are challenges when those guys are screening and rolling or slipping, and we were pretty in tune, to defend the paint. Obviously they didn't make a bunch of threes. They took, 35, so they did what they have been doing. 10 is obviously a pretty good number. But that was probably the difference in the game. I thought, for the most part, we defended both the three and the paint.
And then for you guys, was this just simply a performance where everybody kind of took after the tone that Kayla and Diamond set, and also the personality that those two have? I mean, just being fearless and not backing out.
I'm going to throw Dorka in there too. I'm going to throw Dorka in there because Dorka, her communication and talking about what was happening and what she needed her guards to do. And then Jess and Emily came in. And so, yeah, it was contagious, that mindset. So I think once we got our footing and we made some shots in the first quarter, then we really kind of, gained some confidence and when Kayla kind of carried us there and making shots, and, we battled pretty well defensively to kind of get a little separation, and we just had to hang on at the end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go to Frank.
Cheryl, you talked about the big three that Diamond hit there at the end. I mean, that was such a big shot. And then Kayla followed right back up with a big basket.
Yeah.
And what impact are the rookies having on Kayla's game out there? What impact is she having on their game? And then just briefly on Diamond, I mean, as she left the game quickly, she was right back in, but how is she doing afterwards?
Yeah, I'm sure she's sore, but she seemed to be okay. McBride's influence as a veteran, it's been nice to see her embrace the young players. Sometimes, the old dogs don't like the puppies, they find them annoying, and K-Mac thinks they're cute. So she plays with them. She's patient with them, and she gets a kick out of them, and some of the stuff that they do, and Diamond in particular, so she's just embraced them, and she gives, in every timeout, every stoppage of play, she's helping them consider the play calls and why, and it's not for the play isn't for K-Mac often, it's for her she's trying to set up Diamond, or for the team to be successful. So no question that Diamond and Dorka help K-Mac's game, right? Diamond's ability to go score, to play fast, to play in transition. You got to guard her belief in herself, get to the foul line. No question that helps Kayla's ability to get shots. And I think leadership wise, Kayla's had a huge impact on Diamond and Dorka.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I can't.
Hey, Coach. One last question on Diamond. I mean, just, the moment, you guys are struggling to score for 4 minutes. They come back 14-0. It's a 1-point game, and New York's done this sort of thing all year.
Yep.
And in her first game in New York, Big Apple, she takes that shot and makes it. I mean, it just seems like a moment that you'll maybe remember, maybe a year from now, maybe a few years from now. Just talk about seizing that moment.
Well, I think for Diamond, she's probably thinking, why not? Why not take this? I'm open. What's worse could happen? Miss again? So she just had belief in herself, likes the big moment. I think she had a lot of family here, so I think that was really fun for her. I think what stands out to me with Diamond is just she's not afraid to, not afraid of the big moment and just excited. A lot of times rookies can be intimidated by, look at some of the names on that side, and you could be intimidated. And the rookies that we had today were excited for the moment, excited to see what they could do, and obviously they both showed that they can play pretty well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
So that's all for Locked On Women's Basketball today. Like I said, tomorrow we will be back with a special Kayla McBride show. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Tuesday.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.